Good morning, folks, and welcome back to the Doncaster Motorcycles YouTube channel. If you haven't liked and subscribed to this channel, shame on you. Get it done. Right, okay, so we've got this Triumph Speedmaster. You may have remembered a video I did before where I did the ape-hanger type bars, which was quite popular, so I thought you might like to see this. This is going to be a Decat, which is basically swapping out the cat on the exhaust, which is under here and also very, very hot at the moment, with this Black Widow exhaust sort of catalyzer bypassy pipe thingy jobby. So it looks like this side of the exhaust got to come off, then the cat will come out, hopefully. Might have to loosen the entire exhaust system, we don't know yet. But, can you hear that alarm going off in the background? But yeah, so that's the job of today. And also, I'm going to be doing a silver service while we're at it. So a time lapse will begin now. And any questions, bob them in the box below. Thanks for watching. By heck, I'm a bit loud with that microphone, aren't I? Anyway, so this is a silver service along with the Decat pipe fitment. So first of all, you're going to watch me drop the oil, an oil filter. Well, I'm going to let the exhaust cool down while I sort of process this. So get on with the service. So oil and filter, drop, and then I'm going to do the tyre pressures, check the chain adjustment, and then we'll see how cool the exhaust is. One thing to note, when I drop the oil filter, it's quite a common issue. I don't think you picked up on it on the video. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. It goes a bit quick with this time lapse. But basically, the O-ring from the oil filter was still on the engine when I removed the old oil filter. So make sure you get your fingers up inside and give it a little pull and pull the O-ring out, because you do not want to double lip an O-ring on an oil filter. Somebody did that to me many years ago and sent me out on a test ride. I was a newbie mechanic and I was just happy to test ride everybody else's work, and they double lipped the seal. Double lipped or doubled the seal. Basically left the old one on and put the new oil filter on top of it. And as you can imagine, it let all the oil seep out from the motor all over the back tyre, and I was on the floor, much to my dismay. Anyway, so the new oil filter's on. As you noticed, I put a little bit of oil on the O-ring to help it sort of seat and be able to tighten it up without the oil filter sort of snagging. Again, it's another common thing you need to do. So I am now in the process of removing the exhaust. It's cooled down enough. Reaching up under the tank to disconnect the O2 sensors, exhaust O2 sensors. You can just get to them. Saves taking the seat off and the tank and everything else. So that's one exhaust out of the way. Around to the other side. Same procedure. Disconnect the O2 sensor. There's two bolts holding the flange on, one holding the end can on. And in the centre of the exhaust, there's two outlets that go to the collector box, which is what houses the I can't think of it. The cat. Why did I lose my train of thought there? So the cat, the exhaust cat. So that's what we're doing. The decatting it. So yeah. So both exhausts off, and then we've got to the cat unit underneath the bike, which isn't as easily removed as I imagined. I expected to just take these exhausts off and maybe just unbolt a couple of bolts and it'd drop out. Unfortunately, that is not the case, as you will see. So I took the bolts out of the heat shield surrounding the catalyzer. It's a catalyzer, or whatever we call it. So you can see it's a fiddly little job. It shouldn't be. It's quite easy actually when you figure out the correct way to do it, which is more extreme than what I had imagined. But I thought, oh, I'll just drop these bolts out, wiggle it out, and it'll drop out. No, you won't. So anyone attempting this, I can assure you that cat unit does not come out without removing the frame rail on the right hand side of the machine. I did hope in vain that I wouldn't have to go to that extreme, but unfortunately, as you can see, there's much wiggling and twiddling, and I haven't bolted the heat shield bolts. I then took the little heat shield off the front. I took the rubber grommets out of the mountings, the spacers. I removed absolutely everything in the vain hope that I could wiggle it out. No, you can't. The right hand frame rail has got to come off. Now I was going to edit out all this faffing around with the cat unit itself, because obviously it didn't get me anywhere. But I thought, leave it in. I'll stay true to the job. I don't ever hide anything from you guys or girls. I always tell you, even if I don't show you. But so I'll show you that I did try everything. It got me nowhere. It would have been much quicker just to go straight to the frame rail, but I was pretty sure that I could get it out without. I did explain to James, the owner, if I was a bit more of a brutal type of guy. Well, not brutal, I can be quite brutal. Maybe, what's the word? I don't know, without sounding too offensive to other people, but some people would have just bent a bracket or maybe cut a little, because you could cut a little bit off and it would fall out. But that's just not the kind of guy I am, and you could get too brutish with it and maybe scratch the frame, which is definitely something that I will not do. So I should have done this to start with, but like I said before, I thought I was good enough to get it out without, but unfortunately I wasn't. So the frame rail has got to come off. Pretty straightforward stuff. I think it was only held on by 5 bolts and the foot brake bracket, the foot brake bracket bolts to it. But to be fair, pretty straightforward. Yay! It's off. Loads of faffing, but we got there eventually. So the new unit will go on in the replace. I can't speak. I need more coffee, I think. So yes, the new unit will go on to replace that one. So the rubber grommets have to go in, the spacers, all that I took from the old one, and put them into the new one. And something I didn't do at this point, which I should have done. I know I should have done it, but I didn't. Again, just a lapse of concentration. There's 2 exhaust clamps on these little units. that are much easier to install at this point rather than try and do them later when it's all back together. I am applying the corrosion block grease to just about every bolt I'm putting back in the bike. There was a little bit of corrosion on most of the bolts, nothing too major. This bike has been used regularly, so that corrosion block grease does aid everything going back together. It makes my job a lot easier putting it back together because it makes it super smooth, but also prevents any further corrosion and makes life a lot easier for the next time we take it apart, if we do take it apart again. I always think I should be talking at these points in between. What do I say? Well, it's just basically the bike going back together bit by bit. It would be easy if I were explaining to you while I was doing the job, but when I'm doing the voiceover at the end, I can't actually remember where I was at what point I was. So we have put the Decat pipe on, so that's now in place. Now the frame rail's got to go back on. So obviously something like that, something as major as the frame rail, it's all got to be torqued up correctly. So like I say, there's only one engine bolt. I think there's 2 bolts at either end of the frame rail, and then a bolt that bolts into the engine. So there you go, checking the settings, and then tweaking up, feeling the click of the torque wrench, so we know that's all good. And then pretty standard stuff, straight back to fitting the exhaust. So it's everything a replacement is the reversal of removal. But you do recall, if you've watched this entire video, that I mentioned about the exhaust clamps earlier. How you should put them on before. When they put the cat unit back on the bike, you could put the little clamps on the cat unit, the collector box, whatever, because these little I should have shown you a picture of them or put them up to the camera, but they're just like a hinged clamp. Super simple idea, super fiddly when you've got to reach underneath the bike and try and get it around the exhaust and the exhaust gasket to clamp it all together while you're upside down. So yeah, if you ever do this job on one of these bikes, make sure that clamp is on that collector box before you get to the point where you're putting the exhaust back on. because the air was blue in that workshop. I was proper, well, I weren't an happy man. Because I knew I'd made a mistake of not putting them on earlier. You see how much footage there is of me fiddling around with this, and this is a time lapse as well, so you do understand how frustrated it was. So yeah, always put them little clamps on beforehand. Anyway, at this point the clamps are on. I should have done a merry dance, because now, yeah, the exhausts are on and we're putting the oil in. So obviously we did drop the oil and everything earlier, but I didn't put any oil in, so I'm putting the oil in now to be able to run it up. That obviously is part of the service, but also we need to run it up for check for any leaks. And when it was leaking ever so slightly from the right hand rear of that collector box, so I had to loosen up the exhaust fittings and give it a wiggle and a shake and seat it home. I had to sort of release a bit of pressure off the clamp and wiggle it home, get it to seat properly before tightening it up completely again. Here I am fiddling around getting those O2 sensor connectors back in. It might look like a faff, but it is quicker than taking the bike apart. Here you can see I'm trying to pinpoint where the leak's coming from that I mentioned earlier. So there we go, we loosen it all off. Give it a tap here, a tap there, a wiggle there, just to get it to seat home correctly. And it did take a bit of fiddling, but I don't like to have to. Well, I don't ever use the gum or fire gum or whatever they call it. Standard gaskets and proper sealing procedures always. So here I am replacing the front foot pegs. Very good on these bikes, they come off very easy, held on by 4 bolts at the front. I'm like an Honda 90 or something, just 4 bolts holding it all on. And all the ancillary for the gear selector and brake lever and everything is all on there as well. Just a note here, it is advisable to get somebody to help you with this little bit. Obviously I've got a mat on the bench just to make sure we don't scratch it or anything. But it is a little bit fiddly, and it would be much easier if you just got somebody to hold it in place while you put the bolts in. So here is a undershot, upskirt shot of the old exhaust system, and job's a good one, job's done. Well, the exhaust is done, so I'm just finishing off the service. It was silver service, so we did the oil and filter, chain adjustment, tyre pressures, and I'm now flushing out and putting some fresh brake fluid in. This is all standard stuff, you've seen this many times before, so I'll just let you watch and enjoy. The rear brakes aren't the easiest on these. You need a long reach. Again, assistance required. If you've got anybody to help you, then it's much beneficial, makes the job a lot easier. I did have 2 other people in the workshop today, but they was busy doing their own job, so as tall as I am, I just managed to be able to stretch out to pump that lever while I was releasing the banjo. Not the banjo, the bleed nipple. Ooh. Right, so we got there in the end, Decat pipe fitted, it was a bit of a faff around. I thought we might be able to sneak it out from underneath, as you saw, but no, we had to take the frame rail off to get it out. Not as straightforward as I was imagining, but I've done one now, so I know how to do them in future. Still the service taken care of, and that's pretty much all it is. So I'm sure you want to hear it. So let's start her up. Oh, in fact, let's start up and turn this microphone off because it doesn't quite pick up the sound correct. So, although it doesn't sound much louder, it'll be definitely freer flowing, and also it will be a bit throatier, but I did make the mistake of not filming it initially to let you hear the sound of the original, but the original is the sound of any Bonneville Speedmaster, so this is what it sounds like with the Decat. Definitely a meaner, throatier sound for sure. And there we have it, ladies and gents, boys and girls, all done and dusted, and thank you for watching.